announced earlier, our first session is about towards a safe fintech environment. You must be having an idea as after reading the topic that what it's going to be about. And now I'd like you all to please welcome a speaker for the first session. Everybody is here with us already. RPS ADG, Cyber and Economic Offenses, Mumbai, Maharashtra, the one and only Shri Madhukar Pandey. Everybody, welcome him on stage, please. Over to you, sir.
Okay. Pardon? I think that will be better because I'm not able to see the presentation. Okay, so I will come to these. Okay, I can see this. Yeah, that's fine. So the topic given to me is towards a safe fintech ecosystem, and there are what exactly is fintech and the things that we use, the terms that we use to define fintech. Uh, it's not really important to revise all of that because we are all basically from that sector only. But let's just for a recap. Fintech is about the four fulcrums that make it up. One is talent, then capital, policy, and demand. And all of this is basically we interwoven by what we call the infrastructure, the digital infrastructure. And this is how then is used by entrepreneurs, technology firms, traditional FIs, consumers, corporates, government, regulators, investors, angel investors, academia, entrepreneurs, and all that. Uh, of course, all of us know that fintech is not only about payments and payment gateways, although most of the participants I'm seeing here are mostly with payment. But then we have other sectors also. We have insurtech, open banking, regulations, tech, robo-advisors. Financial inclusion is, of course, the people who are not directly covered by the standard financial sectors and banking, especially the beneficiaries of the loan apps. That is something that we can come to later. And all of this is enabled by technology innovations, which are the most important ones are the mobile and web applications. Cloud computing is, of course, there. Now we have moved from the physical servers to computing with the cloud. A lot of these are using now blockchain technology and AI and ML. And now in India, we are also going to have 5G, Internet of Things, which is going to bring its own set of challenges. Of course, all of this is being used by e-commerce, banks, financial institutions, insurance, card networks, decentralized financial system platforms, and technology companies. Now, coming back to, since we are going to talk about safety, we are going to have to understand what exactly are the areas where there is an issue of lack of safety or threats. So the threats can come from multiple actors. It can be an insider threat, your internal employees. It can be professional hackers. It can be competitors also. Although it is not really relevant, but not exactly the same, but slightly similar. That today in the papers you must have read that one big technological firm has laid off around 300, 400 of its employees because they were moonlighting with their rivals. I don't know whether that was something that they were doing, this internal threat or not, but that is also something that is coming up now. It can be political hacktivists. The normal or standard way that in which the modus operandi that these people operate is the DDoS attacks. They do spoofing, ransomware, insider threat, malware, sniffing, in which they sniff the network especially when it is unencrypted. Phishing, zero-day attacks, where the vulnerabilities is not known even to the developer, and APTs. All of these will, if any of these threats materialize, then we have what all can be compromised. The company's strategy information can be compromised. Its data can be compromised. Commercial and customer information can be compromised. The vendor information can be compromised. Financial and compliance information can be compromised. Operational information, the applications, the intellectual property and employee information, all of these can be compromised, and that becomes a big threat. So again, we are coming back to this, the types of attacks that was there in the previous slide also. Here, some definitions are there. There is a study, it was published somewhere in 2019 in the US, I think, some cyber security firm. They said that out of 100 successful attacks, 53 result in disruption of business processes. At least 35 result in theft of intellectual property and sensitive data. At least 33 result in reputational damage. 28% they result in financial loss, employee morale, and then issues of regulatory non-compliance are raised in more than 20% of the cases. This is taken from the Verizon data breach report of 2019. So as we can see that the average annualized cost by sector because of these attacks is highest in the financial services. In that particular year, it was 16.5 million in the financial services sector, which was the highest. And the number of DDoS attacks faced by the financial sector was 765, which was more than double the nearest rival, that was 365 for retail. Here are some interesting numbers taken from different sources. This is from the 2019 report of USA. Now, these two figures are important. This one and this one. So, $135 billion were invested in fintech in 2019. 646 million was invested in cybersecurity, which is around 0.47% of the entire outlay. So that is the thing. There was a study that was published about Indian fintech firms, and that mentioned that out of 25 top fintech firms, and this was in slightly older data, 2019 or so, out of 25, only around one-third or out of 25, one-third of them had allowed only text as the passwords in their applications. Things are changing now, but the issues of focusing and resource allocation on cybersecurity and prioritizing it is going to be very important. So what are the risks that we normally face? First is, of course, identity theft. When a person's whole identity is stolen. Only yesterday we had a session, we had organized a seminar with I4C in which some banks and Department of Telecom officers had also come. They had come out with a very interesting case in which a person was made to download a remote access app on his phone by a guy who was into phishing. So he told him, gave those stories that they normally give. This person downloaded that remote access app, and then his data and his contacts and passwords, other things were taken out. A WhatsApp number was opened by the other person on his phone number. And then after that, a lot of stories, sad stories for him, they took off. What are the issues that we are normally facing with fintech? The first is that compared to the standard banks, the nationalized or private sector banks, which are big financial institutions they are heavily regulated. There is a very clear code of regulation. The fintechs regulation is evolving. It's evolving all across the world, and it's evolving even in India. That is number one. Second thing is that there is a lot of competition, so there is a rush. There is a first-to-market rush, and in that, some compromises are taking place. Costs. So everybody would like to, come out with a, very comfortable product at a cheaper, quite a cheap cost. So that is causing some concerns. Then the issue of awareness and skills. Awareness is a big issue. Many people really do not really understand the type of threats and type of things can happen. They only learn it the hard way when something big has happened. And also for evolving fintech that has not yet been established, the brand damage if something goes wrong is not really that significant compared to a big nationalized or a big private sector bank. So that is also an issue that is needs to be addressed. These are some major cyber attacks of the decade of the financial institutions. We must have all heard of it. So in 2012, the 6 major American banks, they were targets in a wave of computer attacks by a Middle Eastern group. JP Morgan's case in the summer of 2014, 83 million accounts were compromised by hackers. Ironically, JP Morgan is a company known for investing a lot of resources in cybersecurity. The Bangladesh Bank of Bangladesh in February 2006, that is a very well-known case. In India, these things are happening very commonly. So the latest is a company called Cash Mama. I don't know, probably it is not, it has practically gone defunct if I'm not sure, if I'm not wrong. So this was in April. Only day before yesterday, there was an article in the papers that talked about a Trojan called SOA that is coming out in, and infecting a lot of Android apps in India. There was in 2020 December, the Indian fintech called Checkbook. That suffered a data breach. Uptox, the stock market company, that suffered a data breach in 2021 April, and the KYC details were compromised. Recently, you must have heard of this new airlines that has come, Akasha. That has had its data breach. So a lot of data, but not the credit card data and other details, they have been compromised. So these things, as you can see, the hackers or the people who want to do this, they are at it. 18, 19, 19, 20, 20, 21, 21, 22. They are at it. And therefore, we also have to be at it. That is the point that I want to make. So what was the standards and regulations that are there in the world and our country? So as I initially said, these regulations are not very well defined in India and rest of the world, but there are regulations which are there and which cover the gambit of fintech also. For example, GDPR is the privacy law in the EU. PSD2 is the electronic payment services. It's called Payment Services Directive. It governs the electronic payment services in the EU. Then EIDAS, that stands for Electronic Identification, Authentication and Trust Services. That is GPGI 13, that is UK Cabinet Office Security Policy Framework. APRI, Act on the Protection of Personal Information, that is in Japan, and so on and so forth. RBI, SEBI, and IRDAI, they had come out with their own regulatory sandbox. The RBI regulatory sandbox, that has now come out with its, till now, 7 cohorts. on 7 different themes. But as I said, these have still not been codified, and they are, to the best of our knowledge, they are still working on it. There are some other directives that have come up. For example, you must have all heard of tokenization. This is something that only day before yesterday there was a newspaper article in which what we read is this, that the Indian merchants, they have agreed for tokenization and subject to certain facilitations, which is a good thing, so that the credit card details will not be stored on the servers. And if it is not stored, then it may not be stolen. The virtual Aadhaar ID is a system that the government has already come out with quite some time back. Unfortunately, that is not too much in use. And this is something that is not very well known, but CERT-In has come out with a guideline that if there is a cyber crime that has happened in your organization, it must be reported. And even that is being resisted to some extent. I don't know what exactly is the reason, but these are some of the regulations that are there in the place. So how do we mitigate these threats? Well, these are some standard things that we do. We identify the possible sources of threat. We try to protect it. If something happens, then we try to detect it, respond, and then recover. So for that, these are some common important mitigating measures. We create backups, we do encryption, we ensure compliance to the guidelines. Awareness is the most important thing. Firewalls and antivirus, anti-malware systems. Adopting a security by design approach. And awareness and staff training, that is something that we have already mentioned. So how do we become cyber resilient? These things are getting slightly technical. I'll just briefly touch over this. First most important thing is that we should allocate resources. As I said, in 2019, only 0.46% of the resources were being allocated for cyber security in the financial sector. That should change, that should increase. Whatever applications that we are developing, they should be continuously being tested. Then the application logic should be secure. That is very important. The application logic security would mean that we should force a complex passwords. We should not accept simple passwords. We should have a shorter login period. And we should ask them to change the password every, let's say, 1 month or so. Data encryption. Secure coding is again very important, where we design the whole thing in such a way that input validation is always maintained. And there are tools using which we can tamper-proof the code. So if there is somebody has tried to change the code, you would come to know it. If the organization does not have cybersecurity experts, you can outsource it and invest in that capability. Nowadays, of course, we are advanced technology solutions are coming up. So we can build architecture where there is, what we call zero trust. We can augment the cybersecurity with AI. Multi-factor authentication is, of course, very important. Secure cloud computing, because even if somebody is hiring cloud services, there is a difference between the security standards that a private cloud provides or a shared cloud or a public cloud provides. But most important thing is awareness and training, because a chain is as strong as the weakest link. If every person working in the company is not really aware of the kind of threats and the kind of precautions that must be taken, then it does not really serve the purpose. Our experience is that whatever the cases that we deal with, almost everything starts with a phishing attack. Something is compromised, somebody has opened a mail, somebody has clicked on a link, and things like that. Then a 24/7 monitoring, continuous testing, and proactive customer protection. That is again very important. And you can, of course, either have a tie-up or hire incident investigation experts. So these are some of the points or thoughts that we had. And now I will go briefly upon who we are. And so Maharashtra Cyber is the cyber police wing of Maharashtra state. We have jurisdiction all over the Maharashtra state, including Mumbai city and the rest of Maharashtra. This wing was created in 2016, and we had three objectives. First was statistics and research of crimes. Second was investigation. The third was training and capacity building. So in 2016, 43 digital forensic labs were created in Maharashtra, and later they were all converted into cyber police stations. So as of now, Maharashtra is the only state in which every district has a dedicated cyber police station. So we do basically three things. We investigate also. We are, for that purpose, we are a police station. We investigate cases. Normally, the different units, Mumbai city, Thana city, Pune city, or other units, they register their cases and they investigate. But once in a while, we take up some sample cases and some kind of umbrella case, and we investigate those cases. We work as the repository of all the cybercrime events, that data that is taking place in Mumbai city, Maharashtra state. And we organize training and capacity building. We also work as nodal officer to coordinate with MHA and other organizations. Having mentioned all of this, I would share some experiences with you in the investigation of the recent loan app case that we had investigated. Now, in that loan app case, the particular one that we were investigating, there was a person, he had taken a loan from an app that was downloaded on the Google Play Store. He had taken a loan of 8,000 rupees. After a month, he was asked to pay some 14,000 rupees. And then he was threatened about those same things, morphing and agar aapne paisa nahi diya to hum ye karenge, wo karenge, and all that. He got scared and he paid. Then he got a call again after another 14 days. Again they asked him for 7,000-8,000. He said, yeah, I paid. He said, no, aapka wo service charges or wo charges hai, that is still due, so you have to pay. And this continued over the period of next 4 months. He paid 93,000 rupees after having taken 8,000 rupees as a loan. After 3 months, he paid 93,000. Ultimately, after that, when he got a call, he said, I'm not going to pay, whatever you do. Then he registered a complaint on our portal. We registered a case and we started investigating. Now, in that, the first thing that we had to find out was whether this app was a legal app or an illegal app, whether it had an association with an NBFC or not. Now, that in itself was quite not an easy way to find, because they had mentioned that they have an association with one particular NBFC. But how do we verify that? That became a challenge. After that, we had then we made 3 suggestions. We asked for 3 levels of whitelisting. Number 1 was that RBI should maintain a whitelisting of apps that have an association with NBFCs. Or they should ask NBFCs to declare that these are the apps that we have an association with. So they become a whitelisted loan app. So anything that is not there on that portal is the illegal app. Second thing is that we suggested that Google Play Store should have only the whitelisted apps on their Play Store. Not anybody today, anybody can do that. It's very heartening to see that yesterday in the media it was reported that now they are forcing the apps to also mention the link of the NBFC that they have an association with. This was reported yesterday in the media. The third thing that we have requested or suggested is that, I'm sorry, I'm having a very bad throat since yesterday evening. Anyway, the third thing that we have suggested is that the bulk SMS service providing should also have a type of whitelisting. Today, anybody can send an SMS. I can pay online and do a booking. Thank you very much. So I can today make an online payment and do a bulk SMS. I can send any SMS that आपके यहाँ lottery लग गई है, you win a lottery, you have got a job, you have been selected, I am an HR, your electricity bill is going to be disconnected and things like that. I can send an SMS by a sender ID. I can send it to 1 lakh or 100,000 people, and I don't know how many fish I will catch. So that's another thing that we have suggested. One more thing that we have suggested is the virtual private network. That as of now, some of the virtual private networks have been, they have said that they have shut their shops from India because of the regulations that have come out, that all the VPNs have to maintain the server logs. But they are operating using virtual servers. For example, ExpressVPN has a server one is a virtual server based in London, another is in Singapore. So the work is going on. So very simple thing is that they are being asked to maintain a log of the activity that somebody has done. It's not being asked. They are just saying that if there is a case, if there is an investigation, and if the law of the land demands that this detail should be provided, then it should be provided. So these are the experiences that we have had, and we would like to share that with you. This is a small experience sharing and some of the inputs that we would like to suggest to people who are in the fintech industry. Thank you very much for having me here, and thanks a lot.